Hello everyone. Last year I made a video about a proposed camping ban on Dartmoor. Diana Darwall and her wealthy hedge fund manager husband Alexander, who own about 4,000 hectares of the South Moor, decided to legally challenge a decades-old bylaw that had allowed people to wild camp on their land. And here I am, back on the land under question, Stall Moor, because a few weeks ago, on Friday the 13th of January, a judge decided to side with the Darwalls. Wild camping, which brings joy, freedom and solace to so many, was effectively banned with immediate effect on the whole of Dartmoor. At the time of recording, things are still changing, so some of this might be out of date by the time it goes up on YouTube. No matter though, I'm sure that smug future George will leave snarky corrections in the corners of the screen. This episode isn't about the historic bylaws that allowed wild camping, or about Stall Moor, the Darwalls, or their motives. That's ground I've already covered. This video is about the reaction to the ban, how it's affected the wild camping community, and where things might be headed in the future. Welcome back to the Dartmoor podcast. On the morning of Friday the 13th, I gleefully released episode 13 of the Dartmoor podcast, Search for the Cursed Voodoo Death Skull of Black Hill Down, attracting bad juju towards Dartmoor and causing the judge to just a few hours later ban wild camping. And everyone went into meltdown. Before the court case, very few people were actually interested in camping on the bleak and inaccessible Stall Moor. But now, furious wild campers all over the internet were declaring their intent to come and camp here in spiteful denial of the ban. It's like when a song or film gets censored and suddenly everyone's interested in it. Never mind the Darwalls, here's the stealth pictures. Wild camping carries with it in its very essence the spirit of anarchy, and freedom-seeking wild campers wouldn't be deterred by this in the slightest. On the contrary, some might even enjoy it more for the frisson of excitement caused by breaking the rules. And here's another attitude I heard. If all us wild campers are now criminals, what's to stop us going off the rails? If we aren't allowed to camp in the purple areas of the camping map, which were previously permitted, then why are they any different to the white areas? Seeing we're already outlaws, why not put up a hammock, make a fire, hold a rave, conduct a satanic ritual? Old Crockern. Okay, slow down. This is no way to look at things. Us wild campers are a conscientious bunch who leave no trace. Let's keep the moral high ground. Perhaps a better way to express our fury would be through a peaceful protest. Two wonderful organisations, Right to Roam and The Stars Are For Everyone, decided to channel this anger positively and began organising a protest march for Saturday the 21st of January to raise the spirit of Dartmoor deity Old Crockern so he could punish the Darwalls for their greed. Technically though, wild camping hadn't been banned. Wild camping ban makes a nice headline and captures the situation in essence, but in reality there was a bit more subtlety to it. What was actually agreed was that you could no longer legally camp without permission. So who's to say that if we sought permission, the Darwalls wouldn't give their hearty consent? It was worth a try. After all, there's an email address on their website. Stay civil, stay civil, stay civil, send. Perhaps predictably, I never heard back from them. But luckily, I wasn't the only one bargaining. On the 19th of January, just 6 days after the initial news and 2 days before the protest, the DNPA announced that they'd made a deal with the landowners that would allow us to wild camp on Dartmoor again, including, bizarrely, most of Stall Moor. And everyone lived happily ever after. Except when the details of this deal began to emerge, not everyone was too happy at all. The purple areas of the map had shrunk by almost a fifth, and it was revealed that the broke DMPA would actually be paying the wealthy landowners on our behalf for permission to camp. And here's the crux of the matter. Until the 13th of January 2023, we had the right to camp, and now we only have permission. Permission which could be revoked at any time. Many experienced campers, though, were quick to deny there was even a problem. Nowhere else in England allowed wild camping, so all this did was put us hobbits of the Shire in line with the rest of Middle-earth. That's right, those northerners have never had a right to wild camp, and it hasn't stopped them. In some ways, they have a point. There are quite a few stages you need to go through before you'd actually get kicked off the land while out camping. First, someone would need to find you. If you, like me, move through the land like a shadow and camp somewhere off the beaten track, this is already unlikely. Secondly, that person would have to be connected to the landowners in some way. They are far more likely to be some random hiker or another wild camper. Thirdly, they'd have to have the guts to approach you. And who knows what kind of Bowie knife-wielding maniac could be waiting in that tent, or what sort of Rambo wannabe might be coiled up in that hammock. Bloody buggers. Oi! Sorry mate, you can't camp here. Oi! Excuse me. Fourthly, even if they did approach, would they survive the charm offensive? Once you'd kindly explained how little trouble you were causing and offered them a cuppa, would they still insist on moving you on? And fifthly, if we were to escalate to this point, what could they actually do if you stubbornly dug in? And here's the really beautiful thing. In the unlikely event that we got to this stage, the only crime we would be committing is trespass. Trespass. It even sounds delicious, doesn't it? Since 1964, the misdemeanour of trespass has resided in the province of civil, not criminal, law, and can only be brought to court if damages are incurred. However, if you resist the landowner's command to leave, if you're impolite, the police can be called, and if you resist them, you can be done for a breach of the peace or for obstructing a police officer. But seriously, how are the police going to respond if a landowner calls them up to the middle of nowhere? Let me get this straight. You want us to trek up onto the moor in the dark to get the name of someone because they're sat quietly in a tent? Stop wasting our time. It's Saturday night and we're busy enough with the hive of scum and villainy that's Torquay Harbourside. But none of this actually makes it okay. Just the principle of a privileged few curtailing our freedoms is bad enough, and not everyone wants to, or is able to stealth camp. Not everyone is happy breaking the law, and where wild camping had been allowed, it was now banned. So, where did that leave us? Feeling a little powerless and deflated, to be honest. This was another victory for the rich few over us peasants. It's beginning to feel like a bit of a theme at the moment. Politicians handing out shifty contracts to their mates, millionaires dodging taxes, energy company directors receiving huge bonuses while our heating bills rocket, etc, etc, etc. While the common folk are vilified for wanting fairer pay, our access to free healthcare is being eroded due to an underfunded NHS, and if we have a problem with that, well, even our rights to protest are being threatened. And perhaps because of all of this, the comparatively small issue of a rich landowner partially restricting access to the moors struck a chord. On Saturday the 21st, a huge crowd of people descended on the little village of Cornwood to march up onto Stall Moor and show the Darwalls that they wouldn't be pushed around. Over 3,000 people of all ages and walks of life, though Totnes was perhaps overrepresented. And here's the strange thing. Rather than your normal protest, the symbolic decision to evoke Old Crockern, who in legend ruined an avaricious landowner, made this feel a bit like a curse was being called down on the Darwalls. There was a feeling that this was about something bigger, a feeling that people in this country have finally had enough of the wealthy few constantly getting their way while the rest of us struggle to make ends meet. The decisions we make can sometimes have unforeseen and wide-ranging consequences, and the Darwalls' decision to take this no doubt expensive case to court has, it seems, somewhat backfired. Not only have they actually increased interest in camping on Stormore, but they have woken a forgotten anger in people about their freedoms to roam and experience nature. And these awoken masses have caught the attention of the opposition, with Labour promising to actually increase our rights to roam should they get into power. Even the local Conservative MP, who was partly funded by the Darwalls, came out to say that he supported our right to wild camp. And finally, breaking news on the day of recording, the DNPA, despite having already cut a deal, have decided to appeal against the ban. The bloody legends. Thanks for listening, everyone. The fight goes on. Vive la révolution. Up the proletariat. Give me liberty or give me death. Power to the people. Liberté, égalité, fraternité.